She can connect any two events in history with yarn, thumbtacks, and unwarranted confidence. She doesn't need sources. She is the source. She once debated herself and lost twice. Intelligence agencies follow her Twitter just to see what they're doing next. She never met an obvious explanation she couldn't turn into a confusing 2-hour podcast. She possesses priceless secrets, but will share them with anyone for a small subscription fee. In her world, all roads lead to Israel, even cul-de-sacs. She is the most kooky podcaster in the world, but then again, the feds told us to say that.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. It's been a minute, right? It's been a minute. I did a 5.5 hour show on Sunday with Andrew Branco when we were covering the Charlie Kirk Memorial. And yeah, but I haven't been here since Thursday. This is tis the season for there to be a lot of Jewish holidays. So in case you missed the memo, which I tried notifying people as best I could, even going so far as putting a notice in YouTube land on the community posts there. I forgot. See, I knew I forgot something. Everything felt off. I forgot to post on YouTube in my community chat there that I'm going live tonight at 11. Let me fix that. Give me like 20 seconds to do that. Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right? Wednesday. I knew I forgot something felt wrong. Wednesday. Going live 11. No, everyone will think it was just a late notice, right? It's YouTube. Blame YouTube. 11 p.m. Eastern. That's why I didn't send it out on X either. Oh man, that's a bad job on me. That's a really bad job. 11 p.m. I put it on locals. I definitely put it on locals. The locals people were noticed. I even opened up the chat there. Let me remedy this. I didn't even put it on X. What the hell is wrong with me? All right. Let's put it on. I'll throw it on X also. Just do a quick X post, a copy and paste there, so folks get notified. All right. That's remedied. Phew. Anyway, so I did put a notification out. Thank you, Wellesley. That's Jewish New Year, which we call Rosh Hashanah, which means technically head start. Rosh means head, but Hebrew words will have like multiple similar type meanings. So head, start, beginning of the new year. It's actually the anniversary of when Adam was created. You might not have known that, but it is. 6th day of creation, we say, was on the first day of the 7th month. Don't ask me to explain that. I know you're like, wait, how is that the 7th month? So the year started on the 7th? Yes. I didn't write. I'm just telling you what Torah says expressly. I'm just telling you what we got. So yes, on the first day of the 7th month, and that's when his birthday is. So, and that's what we just had. That started on Monday evening, ran into Tuesday. It's a 2-day holiday. I've gone through on this channel in the past, in previous Rosh Hashanahs. Rosh Hashanah is really Rosh Hashanah is the proper way to say it. But I've gone through the Jewish calendar and how that whole thing works. I'm not going through that tonight because that's like a 15-minute explanation, and we're not doing that. Jim is saying L'chaim is a very subtle way of saying, Joe, did you set up the redirect? Which I like that. It's it was very, very subtle. No one else would have realized it except for me, but I did, and I will. I have not yet, but I will take care of that now if I can find him in here, which is not necessarily going to be such an easy thing, but we'll do our best. Let's see if we find Jim tells you. Jim tells you. Of course, it doesn't just pop up for me. That would be too easy. Jim tells you. I did such a bad job. See, you're off your game when you don't do this for a while. You don't do this for a few days. I see it's not easy to find because it's not there. That's why. It's not on me. It's on you, Jim. Oh, it is here. 9:24, 11:55 p.m. All right. It is here. All right, that's remedied. And yeah, so I have up a goal. I have up a goal that if we hit our goal, which for one reason or another, I accidentally clicked only 10 super chats of $10 or more. Normally it's 15, but once I click it, that's a mistake on me. I'll abide by it. That I've had a whole ongoing debate about like the whole Erica Kirk forgiveness thing behind the scenes. A lot of different takes. I'm still not sure where we're at. Still not sure where I'm at on it, but there's like a very different take from what I think most of you probably have ever heard before. So I will go through all that with you if, in fact, we reach our goal, which Erin is determined to try and get us towards our goal. Good for you, Erin. Hi, Joe. What's the skinny on Nick? I haven't seen him on YouTube. Save a toast to Charlie. I haven't spoken to Nick in a minute. It's been a minute since I spoke with. He and I are in good, still great terms, but it's been a minute since I've spoken with Nick Riccado. So I can't really give you much there. But like I don't think I've spoken to him this summer. So it's been a minute. Like I said, we're on good terms, but he's not someone I talk to every day. So I don't know much about his streaming schedule. I didn't even realize that he made a toast to Charlie. But good on him for that. But thank you for pushing us toward our goal. The two main topics that I plan on covering with you tonight are the ICE shooting and this potential indictment of James Comey. And I really want to have a lengthy discussion with you about whether or not that will make you feel as if something is happening and that Pam Bondi should be taken out of MAGA's crosshairs, which she definitely seems like she's been in the crosshairs for a while. When people were complaining about Pam Bondi in February, March, I said, she's new. You got to give her some time. And then I won't start complaining about her until at least September. Well, we're most of the way through September. So, that's even by my own yardsticks of let's give Pam some grace, give her some patience, let her sort through her stuff. We're in September, so I think she can buy some grace, in my opinion. But we're going to talk about this potential indictment of James Comey, the nature of that indictment as is expected to come down. That indictment, which will probably happen within the next couple of days of James Comey, and the nature of that, I'm definitely going to try and break that down for you. What statutes he's likely to be charged with, and whether it's enough. And we're going to talk about that. But first and foremost, we should talk about everything that happened with ICE. Some of you likely have heard about that. I should talk about ICE. I'm just going to share one funny thing, because when I come out of Jewish holiday, so I'm just trying to catch up on a lot of things. Obviously, first and foremost, football, so that I can find out how I did with respect to my respective teams and stuff like that, which was good but not perfect week, and that was disappointing. But I knew it wasn't going to be perfect because Sunday was just a disaster with one of my teams. But overall, pretty good. The one game that was in any kind of jeopardy at all, I ended up winning on Monday night. And that was in my Good Lawgic fantasy football league, where I'm now 3-0. But and then sometimes I just find funny stuff. People give me funny stuff. They feed it to me, and this was funny. I thought this was funny. So apparently, our president has unveiled the Wall of Fame at the White House. Which, why have we not had this yet? The Wall of Fame, which is basically a long walkway. I think I've seen images of Barack Obama and Trump, various presidents walking down this wall here, but now they basically put all the presidents one by one, and this is hilarious. You have to love President Trump. How does anyone not love this guy? This is what we got. This is all the presidents. He's got all the presidents there. All right. You got volume here? Yeah. I don't know if there's any volume here at all. You don't need. This is really just a picture is worth 1,000 words. So there you go. He's got Charlie. He's got. Oh, look at that. He's got Ford, and then Carter, and then Reagan, and there's Herbert Walker Bush. And then you got Bill Clinton there. You got W right after Clinton. So you're seeing a theme going on here. There's Barack Obama. There you go. A little wall of fame here. Barack Obama. There's President Trump there next, obviously. And then next up on the list there is Auto Pen. Oh my God. Oh my God. He's a master of troll. He's the master troll. Oh my God. No picture of Joseph R. Biden, just an auto. That's who the president was. That's who it was right there. The little auto pen of his Joe Biden signature. Oh my God. No one but Trump. Nobody but Trump. Oh my God. How do you not love this guy? Oh my God. He's great. He's great. There you go. There's a little, you can see the little pen, the little controlled pen there. Oh my God. Followed by number 47. Followed by 47. That is great. So good. So Trump, I'm glad to see that Trump was keeping himself busy while I was on holiday. I should point out to you, by the way, every week for the next 3 weeks, there's going to be some level of Jewish holiday because, as I said, it is the season. So I just want to point out to you, next week is the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur. That's a one-day holiday. Okay, that's a one-day holiday. I'll remind you about it as we're coming up to it. It's a one-day holiday. It starts 1 week from tonight. Okay, so Wednesday night into Thursday. So I'm not going to be here next Wednesday night. I'm going to be busy fasting and praying and doing all sorts of, hopefully, atoning. And it is our Day of Atonement. It's considered the holiest day of the year, called Yom Kippur. And we're, like I said, fasting, atonement, all day in synagogue, praying and basically begging God for forgiveness. And that is Yom Kippur. The following week and the week after that is basically going to be the Sukkot and then Shmini Atzeres. And I'm missing 2 days per week for the weeks after this. Next week, I'm going to be missing 1 day. In the following 2 weeks, I'll be missing 2 days each week. Similar to it's going to be like a Monday night, Tuesday night thing. And starting 2 weeks from now and 3 weeks from now. I don't like going through it because I feel like I'm just confusing people. They're like, I don't even know what he's saying anymore. That's what I feel like happens. But basically, it comes out that October 6th and 7th. So Yom Kippur is going to be on October 1st. And then you basically look at October 6th and 7th. Those 2 nights. Unless you're back on October 8th. And then a week later on the 13th and 14th. If you're marking your calendars, that would be the appropriate way to mark it. Breck Nichols says, no Rumble stream error message says waiting to upload video to storage. Why? Why are they doing me dirty like that? That doesn't make any sense. I did it right. It says on StreamYard that I'm sending it there. StreamYard says I'm live. What is with Rumble? Oh, gosh. I didn't do anything wrong here. This is not on me. This is Rumble. This doesn't make any sense. It says I'm sending it to Rumble. It says I'm sending it to Rumble. I can show you. It says I'm live on Rumble. Look at this. Look at this. You want some Inception? I'll give you Inception. I'll take me out. That's the way to do it. Look. You see this? Let's do it this way. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Oh, my God. Well, that's not helpful. But yeah, you see up here is you are alive. You are alive. Yeah. Sorry about that. I knew Inception was going to come. So what am I supposed to do now? What should I do with Rumble? Tell me what to do with Rumble. How about pin the no streaming dates on locals so we have a go-to place to keep track? See, that's really smart. All right, I can do that. I'll try to set that up tomorrow. That's very smart, Aaron. Thank you. Good idea. I've done that in the past. I should have done it this year. But yeah, so I'll try and remedy that tomorrow. I don't know what to do with Rumble. I'm at a loss. I don't know. It says it's trying to process my stream. Waiting to upload video to storage. Okay, let me try. I'll try fixing it. I'm gonna try fixing it. I apologize. You people in YouTube are very patient with me, and I appreciate that. But I'm gonna try and fix this really quick. Let's end that live stream. End it, and we're gonna live streaming. Waiting to upload. Use this as a template, and oh my God. I'm going to come back to Rumble in a minute. We'll try and fix it in a few. Okay? Try to fix it. All right. I need to let it sort of process out and do its thing, I think. Oh, Lord. Okay. I'm going to fix it now. We'll fix it now. Shot. Lord, what a pain in the neck. Just because I really care about you, Rumble, you ghetto people. I know you think I don't. I know you think I don't, but I'm trying to prove to you that I do. So this is me trying to fix it. I'm trying to fix it. Some more. Copy and paste. Copy, paste, Control V. Put this up here. Okay, primary category, podcast. Later time. Later time. We'll set the time up for 11:30. Apply and next. There, submit. Okay. So at 11:30, I can try and redirect this over there. We'll see how this goes. This was not on me, though. You heard it's a DDoS attack? Well, I'm going to try again in 3 minutes. We'll see. I'm going to remove this one. Remove that. Okay, and then I'll try and edit and add it in after it's 11:30 over there. We'll see if it works. I don't know. If not, I don't know what to tell you. Doing my best because I care. All right. Let's get in on this ICE shooting first. Let's talk about that first. So as we're doing our best over here.
The FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence.
Yep.
One ICE detainee is dead and 2 more critically injured after a shooter perched.
And it's horrible. You know, these people who are being detained by ICE shouldn't be dying because you have some stupid leftists who are deciding that they're going to go bananas.
Atop a nearby building.
You know that if it was ICE agents who had been killed, it would be far less of a tragedy to the left. It's only a tragedy to them because it was the detainees who were harmed.
Opened fire at an immigration detention facility near downtown Dallas. Hi, everybody. I'm Hannah Battah. Thank you for joining us here on Fox 4 at 4. I'm here now with Sean Rabb as we work through all the updates continuing to come in from this morning's shooting.
Yeah, here's what we know now is that police first got calls about this shooting just about 6:30 this morning. This is at the facility just off I-35, also known as Stemmons Freeway, not far from downtown Dallas. When Dallas officers got there, they found 4 people shot, including the shooter. The other 3 people shot were ICE detainees. 1 is confirmed dead. 2 others are critically injured. Earlier, authorities said 2 detainees were killed, but they have since revised that downward. Police say 29-year-old Joshua Yan opened fire, striking an unmarked van at the Immigration Detention Center.
Here's the only photo that we have right now of that suspected shooter. This
Yeah, he looks real right-leaning right there, right?
is a mugshot from 2015 for an unrelated arrest. This arrest was for possession.
And now his hair is probably 4 different colors, and he's probably got all the different metal accoutrements around his face. I'm just guessing. I haven't seen a picture of this guy.
Of marijuana out of Collin County. Police say he killed himself before officers arrived today as he was perched on a roof of a nearby building.
That's a tragedy too. I'm not going to kid you. Everything about this is a tragedy. I'm not cheering his death. Oh, it's a tragedy.
Director of the FBI has shared this picture of evidence found.
Because I look at him like he's a victim of a society. I mean, he's still a monster. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying is don't mistake that. He's a monster, but he's a monster who's turned by by the left.
At the scene of ammunition with anti-ICE mess.
Now, let me see if I can get Rumble in here. Let's see if we can get Rumble in here. Let's see if that worked. I'm now streaming to Rumble, I believe.
And starting this afternoon, we saw police and FBI carrying out searches at 2 homes possibly connected to the shooter. First was in Fairview, just south of McKinney, at a home in a neighborhood near 75 in the Sam Rayburn Tollway.
Yeah, the second was a home in Durant, Oklahoma. Authorities are there right now at the scene investigating. This is in a fairly rural area, just a few miles west of US 75. And that's what
I know. And what I'm saying is, you know, to my way of thinking, you can't say that this is like someone who's programmed by the left and then say that there's and then not feel some level of sympathy for someone. The same way if someone is turned into, imagine you have a situation where someone is abused their whole life, like really abused, and they become abusive. They're turned into a monster, but you understand how they become a monster. And to some degree, it's not the same as someone who's, let's say, born psychotic. If that makes any sort of sense. We still should punish them just exactly the same. We still should punish them exactly the same, but the whole thing is just it's a tragic story. I don't know. Maybe I'm sounding like a liberal right now.
where we're joined now by Fox 4 Steve.
I'm not saying it's any less evil. I'm not saying the punishment should be any less. And the ramifications are clearly just as terrible for the victims of these people who are monsters. I'm saying he's a monster. I'm simply saying you can see where the monstrosity is birthed. So on the one hand, if we're saying you're making these people monsters, I'm saying like to the degree there's so much culpability. I guess you can say everyone is culpable, and they are all culpable. I'm just saying, is someone who just is, let's say, born evil, are they now they make other people evil? So is that person are they the same? Or if one is made evil by someone else, do you sort of look at them like a little bit differently than the one who's making other people evil? I don't know. I'm sort of torn about it.
Stephen Dow, who's been following this police activity as it moved north from the scene in Dallas. Stephen.
Suspect, 29-year-old Hannah, we've been in Durant, Oklahoma for multiple hours, but we've just started seeing recent activity in the last 30 minutes.
Do you hear an echo? That's not me, that's them.
So I'm gonna step out of the shot so you can see what's happening. Before you see the B-roll that we shot moments ago, you see a Bryan County Sheriff's deputy driving down this.
And this is a fair point that Wrestlertown is making. You know, it's almost like, what am I supposed to do with you? I mean, we tried talking to you. Charlie Kirk tried talking to you. You saw what happened in Tennessee State today, where the college kids were basically chasing them off campus and trying to like not even hear them talk. Brave kids who went out to Tennessee State. I got some clips of that I'll probably share with you, of just like the harassment they faced for just trying to start a conversation. Basically mirroring what Charlie Kirk did or Steven Crowder has done, basically saying something like, you know, DEI is evil, prove me wrong. And I give those kids credit for having the cojones to go in there, but they faced tremendous abuse. Let's see how Rumble's looking. Is Rumble looking any better? That's not the right thing. No. Rosh Hashanah is not over at midnight. It's over. It's not me. This is Rumble. We tried. I tried. Listen to say. Yeah.
Road behind it is a home connected to the suspected gunman in the Dallas ICE shooting. Now I want you to look at video that we shot less than 30 minutes ago. In that video, you see an armored vehicle coming in with a battering ram and other multiple federal law enforcement agencies. At least the ATF and FBI are here on the scene. Moments after they entered the property, we heard a loud bang. Could have been them breaching a door, could have been a flashbang. I don't know because it's so far away from this property. But
I tried. I really tried, Uzelian. You can go into locals.
More activity in the last 30 minutes here.
I got the Remo. I got the ghetto up. Even Johnny Reb saying this. So Joe looks like roof access to the building from the attorney's office. Things like, think it is like that. Any of the staff of the attorneys let the shooter up there because that walrus isn't climbing up anywhere. He could be skinnier now. He's a furry, the liberal mom with anti-gun posts. Yeah.
Now, earlier today, we were in Fairview, Texas.
He's a nut job. So, okay. All right. You convinced me. He's a lunatic.
That's outside of McKinney. There is another property associated with the alleged gunman in this Dallas ICE shooting. There, we actually were on scene when we saw what appeared to be family members arriving, and later the FBI and federal agents showed up at that location. Now, it's a quiet neighborhood, of course, like you typically hear with these types of stories. We talked to a neighbor. Take a listen.
And I went out to check the mail, and I saw.
This is a great point by Big H, by the way. A massive problem here is that parents suck at parenting today. They're so bad at it. So many of them. The ones who genuinely trying to be good parents and are just led astray by new age methods of how to parent. And they look at it as if their role is to be friends with their kids. That's not your job. Your job is not to be friends with your kids. Certainly not before they turn 20. At a certain point, once they've developed their own maturity, sure, I guess. Even there should be some boundaries as to like the parent being looked at as being somewhat different. And I think large part of it is a motivation for them to feel like they're young. Like a lot of parents want to feel like they're young and that they're no different from like, their teenage kids. It's terrible. It's an abomination of parenting that we see that is far too prevalent, far too prevalent, and a reluctance to act. They basically spare the rod. And the rod doesn't even have to be that they're punishing them when they're bad, but the celebration participation trophies is and withholding that from them is sparing the rod. And the phrase he who spares the rod hates the child. The implication of that phrase is if you don't hit your kid, you hate them. You only hit your kid because you care about them. You don't even need to use a rod, okay? I'm just going to point this out to you. I'm very blessed to have a phenomenal wife who's great at parenting. I mean, she's just a natural at it, okay? She really is. And I have 6 kids, and I'm telling you right now, we never hit them. And the only exception is if they're learning how to walk and they go into the street, and we basically would smack them on the butt just for their own protection, like almost like teach them that one lesson that while we're watching them, like almost like trick them to go into the street just so they learn that lesson. The only time they ever get hit is like you walk in the street, you're gonna get hit. But basically, yeah, it's never, when I say spare the rod, you hate the child. Someone might draw a misconception from that I was like, beating on my kids all the time. No, I'm telling you right now, I can only remember one time outside of what I just described. I can only remember one time in my life that I ever hit any of my 6 children. And that was when one of my kids was like 4 years old and like just was flat out disobeying me. And I don't even think Lady Logic was home. I don't even know she knows that story. But and then I asked the kid about it many years later. He didn't remember it. But yeah, I'm not, when I say spare the rod, hate the child, that doesn't mean you go around hitting your kids. No, that's not what I'm saying. But they need to learn a lesson that, hey, you know what? Sometimes life is going to punch you in the face, and that doesn't mean that you just give up or crawl in the corner and start crying. The problem with participation trophies is it's designed to basically, everyone talks about like how terrible they are, but I don't know if people talk about why they're so terrible. They're so terrible because they basically teach you that if you show up, you deserve a prize, as opposed to saying, no, it's not just a matter of showing up. And even if you try really, really, really hard, sometimes you're going to fail. And that's okay too. That doesn't mean that you're a loser. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. And you can celebrate, the development as a kid progresses and gets better at something. You should celebrate that 100%. That applies to academics. It applies to sports. It applies to countless areas of life. It applies perhaps nowhere more important than in them displaying admirable character traits. And I'm all for, like, a kid goes out and like basically, shares with a friend of theirs without looking for anything back, like rewarding that kid with something to sort of like incentivize them. Like, hey, you know what? I'm watching you and I appreciate what you did there. That was a very mature thing that you did, that you actually, it wasn't that a matter of like exchange that like, oh, I'm giving you a cookie today because you're missing snacks, so tomorrow you'll give me a cookie. But no, because I care about you. That's why I'm doing it. That's genuine friendship. I feel bad for this other person. I want to try and help that person out. That's genuinely caring, not because I'm looking at what I'm going to get out of it tomorrow, but it's a matter of, no, you're just a good person. That's how you instill healthy values. If a kid has healthy values, they will start to become someone who you like being around when they're teenagers. They will be people you like hanging around when they get into their 20s, rather than having these toxic relationships where it's like, I can't stand being around my own kid because he's a jerk or she's just like, mean. That's how you foster. That's how you breed kids in a way that they're actually good people, that people like being around them, and build their self-confidence, build it like hell, while at the same time making them realize that not every day is going to be a bowl of cherries and ice cream. Some days are going to be rough, because that's what life is. That's how you prepare a child for reality of life. And that even if you have a rough day, that doesn't mean you take it out on people around you. You might self-soothe a little bit, but then you get back on your feet and you go out there and you plug away a little bit harder the next day. These are things that, like, it seems as if so many parents just don't seem to, just basics of parenting. Just understand, put yourself in the kid's shoes, and now ask yourself, how are they likely to interpret the way I'm dealing with them? What message are they likely to be taking from what I'm sharing with them? It's that simple. And I understand some kids are much, much more challenging than others. Much more challenging. I don't want to make it sound as if this is an easy thing. It's not. It's not an easy thing. It takes a lot of work, and you're going to make mistakes as a parent because there's no book out there which is going to cover every possible situation, and every kid is somewhat different from even if you have multiple kids, every kid you have is going to be somewhat different from his or her siblings, and some of them are going to need more than others. Some of them need more attention than others. Some of them will struggle more than others. You sort of need to, as a parent, try and buoy that in order to help them, adjust to life. But I feel as if so many of these parents who genuinely have a heart in the right place just have such terrible instincts, just as far as just thinking through, what message am I giving this kid? And a large part of the messaging, by the way, is not even an interaction as far as what you say and do with the kid, but what you display around the kid. If you're someone who is continually swearing around your kid is going to talk like that. They're going to want to emulate you. Now, you might say that's no big deal. And for many of you, I'm sure you come from environments where it's like, that is no big deal. And I'm not passing judgment on that. I'm simply saying they're going to absorb and spit back what you're giving them. And the same way they'll absorb and spit back what you're giving them in that context, they're going to absorb and spit back what you give them if you're someone who values TV stars as being something that are particularly special. They're going to emulate that too. They're going to take their cue from you. Certainly when that influence you have wanes as they get older, and the influence of their friends starts becoming far more significant. So there's a continually waning influence level that you as a parent are going to have on a child. So by the time they're 8, 9, 10, their friends start having more and more influence on them, which is why it's so essential that one of the things that you start teaching them is how to pick good friends. Pick friends who are going to make them happy rather than make them feel like dirt. Surround themselves with people of value. But that's something else they're going to emulate from you as well. If you're someone who finds toxic people around you and welcome that because they're cool or they're pretty or they're popular or whatever it is that, and they're fun to hang around, but they're ultimately toxic for you, they're going to mirror that from you. That's just reality. And if you try telling them do differently than I did, they're not going to absorb that. Like, okay, that's what you're saying, but I see what you say versus what you do. These are things that are basics about being a healthy parent. Should give a course in this. Anyway, so yeah, sadly, too many of these crazy leftists have bred.
Review police here and a few other cars, and I started wondering what was on, and then my neighbor across the street from me had texted me and told me what was going on, and it's just you're kind of shocked and amazed that it could happen that close to you.
So here back in Durant, Oklahoma, we are.
I don't even know what that means, Danker. Value is different than being a good person. Peace out. I'm good. What does that even mean? I'm very curious about this statement. What does that mean?
Seeing the kind of activity here, we don't know, what they may be finding inside. Again, Sky 4 flew high above earlier before federal officials arrived, but now later I
thought everyone picks friends based on how they are as a person, not how they're going to help them. That's opportunistic. Did I not stress that in the beginning, Danker? That's precisely what I was just talking about as far as an admirable quality, as someone who shows genuine compassion, like when your kid is showing genuine compassion versus having an exchange of goods. That's precisely what I was just advocating for. So let me go back and review.
Only see what this entrance to this long road is to that property. It's a property and then a shed type property also on the property that documentation traced us back to connecting it to the alleged gunman. Again, we are waiting for more details. And so we're going to send it back to you guys for now, and hopefully we'll have an update soon.
All right, we'll check back in soon. Stephen Dow, thank you for the update. Well, again, this all started just after 6:30 this morning at that ICE detention facility in Dallas off Stemmons Freeway, right near Empire Central Drive. The moments during and immediately after the shooting were frightening for anyone who heard gunfire. Fox 4's Peyton Yeager joins us near the scene now. And earlier today, we spoke with somebody who was on the phone with a family member as soon as those shots were fired. Peyton.
Hi, Hannah. Yes, we will get to that in just a few moments, but this is about as close as we can get to the ICE facility here off of Stemmons Freeway. We were pushed back all day by Dallas police, but they have been relieved. And behind me, I'm going to have my photographer push in. We do have some Homeland Security vehicles blocking the entrance to this ICE facility. So again, this is kind of where the media is staged right now, but we'll roll on some B-roll that we have been taking all day from the air and from the ground. Now, this is
what L. Krogan is talking about here, I saw Denzel Washington, who was basically talking about the same thing. Like he was like looking at his friends and the people he was hanging out when he was a teenager, and he got yanked away from those friends. And it was like, and that was, he was talking about the importance of having a father figure around in the home. And he's like, every one of his friends ended up, his circle of friends that he was friends with when he was a kid, ended up basically in jail or dead. And he became Denzel Washington.
Where the targeted attack started this morning at 6:30 a.m. A shooter was on an adjacent roof and fired at the ICE facility and also at unmarked vans in the Sally Port area. We know 3 detainees were shot, 1 was killed, and 2 are in a nearby hospital. Now, FBI is not releasing any information on the victims at this time. We know no law enforcement officers were injured. Again, no law enforcement officers were injured. Now, Hannah, this ICE facility is constantly open for law enforcement, but for some people, they come here for meetings with maybe family members or any necessary appointments. Take a listen to a witness we spoke to earlier today on scene.
Sentimiento porque mi mamá estaba adentro. Uno viene con muchas emociones aquí.
Now this woman was very
What is happening? What is happening? What is happening? What is happening? What? Oh my God. Yeah, that was very informative.
Emotional when we spoke to her. When we arrived on scene earlier this morning, she spoke to us in Spanish, but I'll paraphrase for you guys. She showed us pictures of that back area where these detainees enter and exit with law enforcement. That back area we know is where the shooting took place.
Valiant Renegade, my friend. He's been a member here for 23 months. I'm going to give you the horn for that. How are you, my brother? I haven't seen you in forever. If you're unfamiliar with Valiant Renegade, first and foremost, you definitely should be subscribed to him because the dude has infinite talent. And one of the reasons I don't have him on is because I feel very intimidated by the quality of his speaking voice. It's true. I would have him on a lot more if he got like if he had a raspy. Next time you have like a really raspy cold or something, let me know and I'll definitely have you on, because it's very intimidating. It's very, very intimidating. I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I can't talk like that. I can't. I miss you, brother. He has a great show that he does every Sunday. I'm in a cadre of people who are backstage. And yeah, but now it's NFL season, so you're probably not going to see me there for like 3 months. That's just reality. But I miss hanging out with him.
Now, this woman, she was here for a meeting with a family member. She got here bright and early and was in a parking lot nearby when all of a sudden she says she heard gunfire. It sounded loud. It sounded close, according to this woman. And she tells us she heard more than a dozen shots. She says that's when law enforcement and workers here at the facility told her to remain calm and take shelter.
And this guy self-deleted. Like, what is the plan? What was the plan? Oh, see. God bless you, brother. I'm good. We need to hook up for a show soon. This is for all the absolutely amazing work you do. Ron Coleman has nothing but great things to say about you. I promise. Yeah, I was actually talking with him just yesterday. Ron lives around the corner from me, and we were hanging out as we were walking back from synagogue together. And I was talking to him about the whole Charlie Kirk situation. But yeah, he is awesome. And Ron is a regular on his show. Ron has a lot more time than I do, I guess. I don't know. But thank you so much for the very generous super chat, brother. Appreciate you.
And that's when SWAT entered the building. I also spoke to another man. You know, some of these people got pushed back to a nearby Burger King, got pushed back to a nearby Exxon Mobil, where there's a gas station nearby. A man was also here for a meeting.
So someone tell me, what was this guy's plan? He's like, so he was going to take out some ICE agents and then self-delete? I'm so confused. Does anyone know what his plan was? Does anyone know what his plan was?
And he was here with his wife and also their child. So we know there was a child who was on the property here at the ICE facility. Again, you know, not involved, but they were here for a meeting. This facility does open bright and early. So again, we know some people were waiting for a meeting or waiting for it to open when that suspect, that shooter, started opening fire from a nearby roof. That's the latest here from outside the ICE facility along Stemmons Freeway. Hannah, back to you guys.
Thousands of detainees go through that processing facility. All right, scary moments there. Peyton, thank you. Well, the deputy director for ICE appeared on Fox News this afternoon saying the shooter fired.
Did you see that Greta finally realized that Palestine doesn't accept gay men? Really? She just woke up to that? Oh my God, Greta.
How dare you?
Oh my God, Greta. Okay, so that I need to check that out real quick. Because that's funny. I got more on this. I got more on this. Well, I'll come back to Greta in a moment. So, guy shoots up an ICE facility. He's a furry who has, who's got all these ridiculous posts. And this is MSNBC. They're on the case trying to figure out what his motives were. They're just trying to figure out what were the motives.
The fact that they hinted at a potential motivation here with the etchings on the round saying, quote, anti-ICE.
The fact that the etchings on the rounds from the bullets say anti-ICE, and you think you know what his motivation was. Like, how dare...
How dare you?
Like, they wonder why no one takes them seriously. They wonder why no one takes them seriously.
Nature, and of course, the motivation is being investigated, and this is very early in the investigation.
Way too early.
But the fact that there is this call for the division to stop, for the rhetoric to be tempered down, for the rhetoric to be dialed down, multiple officials mentioned that, including the official from the ICE office in Dallas saying, quote, the rhetoric has to stop. Texas Senator Ted Cruz mentioned it also, saying that politically motivated violence is wrong and that, quote, demonizing ICE must stop. So we heard that over and over and over and over again. And it stood out to me, obviously, because we have seen just the rhetoric escalate. We've also seen the very dramatic videos of ICE nabbing individuals and very dramatic videos of ICE nabbing individuals, tossing them into unmarked vehicles. A lot of these ICE agents have been masked, and so it has been very divisive. And there's been a lot of fear in the different communities where we've been reporting. And so the call for the decrease in that division and the rhetoric.
Thank you.
Is what really stood out.
Yeah, we're definitely hearing increased calls for bringing the temperature down. Just want to let us know that.
Can you please have Valiant set you up with a 3-way show with you, Valiant, and Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers? I want this to happen for a long time. $500 super chat if this happens. Pick the day. Really? I'll for sure I'll have Valiant do that. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'll give you the horn for that. So have Valiant set me up with a 3-way show with me, Valiant, and Jen. What topic should I talk about with Geeks and Gamers? I don't even know what am I supposed to talk to them about? Yeah, maybe that would lower the temperature just a teensy bit. Just a teensy bit if they stop, shooting at us. Oh, look at this. Valiant says he may be able to make that happen. So there you go. So I'll ask you, Valiant, what do you think that Geeks and Gamers and I would? What do you think we'd be able to? What do you think? You think we'd hit it off, Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers? I can talk with you backstage about that. These people are just astonishing. They're astonishing. Just like how they just literally, like, how do you cram your head that deep into your own sphincter? Like, what kind of contortionist do you have to be?
The fact that they hinted at a potential motivation here with the etchings on the round saying, quote, anti-ICE in nature. And of course, the motivation is being investigated. And this is...
It's impossible to know. How can anyone possibly know? So when you say stuff like that, it's almost like you're like mocking. It feels like you're almost mocking. Like especially all the cover-up. When this was Gavin Newsom just yesterday talking about ICE, no accountability from the left. This is Gavin Newsom supposedly yesterday. You're even throwing out a little expletive there. They got to bleep out because you're being hyperbolic. It's not going after his enemies; it's going after extremist organizations. That's the difference.
You saw that.
Where was your outrage when we heard the whole red MAGA, the whole red speech from Joe Biden? Where was that feigned outrage at that point? Because this is clearly very feigned. This is his typical used car salesman. Like, oh, I'm so outraged about this. Don't I look presidential?
Tweet that Donald Trump sent out, Truth Social, basically telling Pam Bondi, I want these 3 people taken out. He's not saying I want he did send a tweet out there saying what the hell is going on. He did. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about whether or not she's doing her job. And I think that's an important conversation, and whether you're going to be satisfied if in fact they do indict James Comey within the next week. And I do think it will be within the next week. I do think James Comey is going to be indicted. But the question is the nature of the charges that they're going to be bringing against him, and whether that's something that you're going to be okay with, because you're probably not going to be okay with it. If it's what they're saying, you're probably not going to be okay with it. Happening in the United States. This can't be normalized.
Yep.
None of this can be normalized.
None of it can be normalized. It was totally normal when Obama was deporting 3 million people, but none of this can be normalized now because it's Trump who's doing it. He's talking on both sides, but he's still the governor. Sadly, he's still the governor. So that's him just yesterday. And then when they go out and start taking people out and start shooting up ICE, everyone's like, oh, it's not our fault. Here's Laura Ingraham, who had Kirsty Noem on.
Joining us now exclusively is Homeland Security Secretary Kirsty Noem. Madam Secretary, it's great to have you on the show tonight. The suspect in this ICE facility shooting was identified as 29-year-old Joshua John. We know the investigation is ongoing, but what can you tell us tonight about him?
Well, we can tell you that he and was on an elevated rooftop that he shot into a building, into a carport area, that he was targeting ICE, and was on an elevated scene as far as evidence so far in this case, and that we have to do all that we can to make sure this never happens again. So unfortunately, we see this kind of violence out on our streets every day. We see people that have been targeting our law enforcement officers across the country, not just in their rhetoric, but also in their actions out on the streets. And some of them appear to be acting independently. We don't know that for certain with this individual yet. We have to let the FBI finish the case, and we'll still continue to work with them to make sure that we do due diligence. But we also know that every day our law enforcement officers out on the street are facing terrorist organizations, cartel members. They're facing very dangerous individuals and networks that are sophisticated, that use technology. And what we're going to do in response, Laura, is that we're going to hire more ICE officers. We're going to go out and hire more law enforcement officers. We're not going to stand for this in the United States. And I'm so incredibly proud of our president, who is furious over the fact that we every day are seeing victims of crime, victims of this kind of a terrorist attack on a facility where people were working, showing up for their jobs, and all they wanted to do was to be able to do that safely and go home to their families at night. So, Laura, we got a lot of work to do in this country, but we're going to make sure that we are a country that obeys the law. We follow the law, and if these politicians don't like it, then go ahead and change it. Quit going out and giving speeches. Go actually do something with your lives and accomplish something. And have a debate over policy rather than just attacking innocent people and people who get up and go do their jobs with honor and dignity and respect.
MSNBC.
And by the way, just to clarify the post that Gavin Newsom was talking about, it was this post here that Trump had sent out. Just we're all on the same page here, where Donald Trump said, Pam, I reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time, all talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. Then we almost put in a Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past, a woke rhino who's never going to do his job. That's why two of the worst Democratic senators pushed him so hard. He even lied to the media and said he quit and that we had no case. No, I fired him, and there's a great case. And many lawyers and legal pundits say so. Lindsay Halligan is a really great lawyer and likes you a lot. We can't delay any longer. Lindsay Halligan is in Virginia, which is why he's thinking that she's the attorney who's she's a new appointee who is hopefully has jurisdiction to go after these DC people. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times. Over nothing. Justice must be served now. President DJT. This is very clearly casting a spotlight on Pam Bondi. And that certainly made MAGA somewhat pleased to see that he's lighting a fire under her. Let's get back to Kirsty Noem for a moment here.
He's law enforcement analyst says that a motive shouldn't be assumed in this case. Watch.
You can't just assume by that what was written on that shell casing that that's necessarily his motivation. He could have been doing that to thinking it was funny, trying to put law enforcement on the wrong track.
Madam Secretary, tonight Americans are very concerned about this feeling that it's open season on law enforcement. In some cases, conservatives. We saw what happened 2 weeks ago to Charlie Kirk, another elevated roof. Is there anything tonight you can tell us about that shell casing that could change that type of thinking, that this might have been a joke or it might have been something written to, get everyone off the trail?
No, I can't, Laura. And the fact that he said that or even suggested that is irresponsible. People don't go around etching things into shell casings and then firing them into buildings for fun. Nobody does that for fun. People do that are evil, that want to destroy other people's lives, and that want to make a statement. And those people feel like they get cover when you have leaders in this country going out there and defending those types of actions.
100%. That's irresponsible. They think that I'm the responsible one saying, yeah, well, let's not jump to conclusions. No, you're giving cover to them and encouraging and emboldening others to mirror and basically say, well, if I do this, people are just going to give cover.
which is exactly what these congressmen, what these senators have done, what these governors have done, what Gavin Newsom and Tim Walz have done by saying and calling names at our law enforcement officers who are just doing their job and trying to protect their communities. Everybody needs to remember these officers live in these communities too. They live there. Their families are there. They want to make sure that their kids can go to school and that their families can go grocery shopping and go to their jobs and be safe. So overwhelmingly, the American people is with our law enforcement. What I would tell the American people is send a strong message. Sign up. Go to join.ice.gov and sign up, and we will put you to work helping keep the backs and have the backs of these individuals who are so wonderful to go out there and defend America.
Madam Secretary, do you have any idea how this individual, Mr. John, got up on this nearby roof? Had he been up there for a while? Had he cased the joint? Any CCTV footage that you can tell us about tonight?
And there'll be more details of the case coming forward. The FBI is leading this case, so we will let them do that.
Jay Schwalbeck says, yes, you guys were great together last time when you were on Valiant Show. Plus, he likes women. You like women and Trump. That's true. These are all facts. Sanglen says, you can discuss the hibbity-jibbity. Thank you. I appreciate your endorsement of me discussing the hibbity-jibbity. That's what I do. I discuss the hibbity-jibbity all the time.
Their work, we're partnering with them and the Dallas Police Department as well. Our Homeland Security Investigations team is a partner. So we'll do that when it is appropriate and make sure that the information we're releasing is correct, because people deserve the truth. And unfortunately, people hear a lot from our members of Congress, and from the fake news, they don't get to hear the truth.
So there you go. That's Kirsty Noem on with Laura Ingraham, breaking it down. And here is, you want to see Greg Gutfeld going nuts on Jessica Tarloff, the resident lefty, where he just decimated her. I'm here in Dallas, Texas. Clearly, this was a Trump supporter shooting his gun celebration. Yeah, clearly, Breck. Clearly, indeed. All right. You want to see Greg Gutfeld decimating Jessica Tarloff?
Nazis. You've never done that, but there are people in your party that have done that. Do you think that's responsible?
Listen, I think that fascism and fascist is a very special category of people, and you should use it when it's really applicable and sparingly, because then.
Okay, when is the last time it was applicable? Because the last time it was applicable was 1945. So when in your lifetime has it been applicable?
People will believe you when you say it. And it has become too common to hear words like that. And that is a both sides problem. And
no,
last
it's
week
not.
We went through the litany of times that Donald Trump has used that rhetoric, and the fact that he came out after Charlie Kirk's tragic assassination and said the radical left did this. And then we heard a chorus of
radical left is not the same thing as saying fascist. It's not the same thing at all. Because fascist is someone who needs to be put down. Because fascism evokes the greatest evil, evokes imagery of the greatest evil of all time, of a threat to society in ways that the term radical left doesn't. No one has ever gone on a whole purge of radical leftists. I mean, I guess McCarthy, but that's quite a while. And even he wasn't gunning them down.
Of we are at war. And that does permeate the entirety of American society, that they hear that from the top. We don't know
garbage.
that much.
That is absolute garbage.
It is absolute.
You're all sitting here angry at Jessica. Don't worry. Greg's going to go get her.
You. When something terrible happens
Greg,
when somebody gets murdered, you are saying, how dare you be enraged by it? Continue.
No, what I say is how
there is no. I'll give you the both. No, Jessica, I'll give you the both sides.
Greg,
I agree with you. There is both sides. On one hand, you have the hard left, and on the other hand, you have the left.
Why are you?
They're the both sides of the same coin. Because you walk into this room and you're not reading it. There is no both sides. You don't have the evidence for that. You can't say that Donald Trump says this. You guys act on it. You guys act on it. We don't. What do you want?
What do I want? I would like to talk about the specifics of who Vance Bolter actually was, since we thought about that last.
They keep coming into this whole Vance Bolter thing. Is there any evidence that there are people on the right that radicalized him? Any at all? Any?
Time, because you make it out as if this was just that he knew Melissa Hortman.
Let's focus on this thing now. I'll destroy you on that later. But focus on this now. You want to go back?
Focus on this now. This looks like a kid that was inflamed either by the leftist cabal or maybe he used his own eyes. And maybe he saw what's going on. Maybe
Used
there's
his
people
own
in his community
eyes.
who are being picked up by people from ICE. Maybe he saw raids at Home Depot. Or maybe he did hear J.B. Pritzker. He seems like a Morning Joe viewer to me, right? Someone who had tuned in, saw Hillary Clinton, and then went out and grabbed his gun. The common denominator in all of this is that we have young men, usually young white men, who have access to these guns and are carrying out these tragedies. They are nihilists. They live online. And again, do you think it's normal that people are writing on casings anti-ICE? They think that it's a joke. You look at Tyler Robinson's text messages with his roommate and partner, it reads like a joke. They just wanted us on Fox News to have to be able to read that stuff out loud. He even said it in the messages. So I get it. You're amped up. I don't think that I said anything worthy of that level of explosion.
Your rationalization of both sides. You have to understand, since Kurt's death, there is no both sides anymore, Jessica.
Why did the DOJ take down the study that showed how much right-wing extremism?
What study was that? Which one? The one in The Economist that was sponsored by a group run by a guy in Antifa? That study that has been discredited by the Federalists? You're walking down a really bad alley right now.
Federalists?
Yes. I actually did see, Jessica, I did the deep dive on that study. That study was authored by a project that was run by a guy who says he was an Antifa. That is why that whole thing has been scrubbed, okay? It's real simple. You label someone a fascist or a racist or a Nazi, it makes you free to attack them. And that has been the ideology from the start.
Yep.
It's weird.
So why?
No. Let me talk.
Trump does it.
What?
Just tell me why it's okay.
I'm getting
When
there.
does he doesn't label people fascists. He doesn't do that. He says they're radical leftists.
I'm getting there.
Great. I'm enjoying this.
Okay. You won't be for long. The left calls Trump a hate monger. They have called me a hate monger because I ridicule the left. I ridicule protesters. I ridicule academia, Hollywood, the news media. I make fun of The View every day. I make fun of the UN. Guess what? No one acts on the things that I say because my side doesn't do that.
Correction, Dash. They label themselves woke. They label themselves leftists. They label themselves. We're simply using the labels that they use. We're using their preferred pronouns. They label themselves that way. It's simply that society has started to recognize just how evil that is.
Say people are stupid. We say people are wrong, but we don't say they're evil. That is your game, okay? And then you come and you say, okay, man, this is a mentally ill loner. Well, who do you think does this stuff? It's not Ben Affleck. It's not Tom Brady. It's not even Carrot Top. People who do this stuff are always that way. The question is, who points them in that direction? Why pick ICE? Why pick Kirk? Why target TV stations and put bombs under Fox trucks? Why vandalize memorials? Why kill kids in Catholic schools? Two things can be true. A person can be mentally ill, and you can be guiding him to that place in his life. That is how brainwashing works.
There is a litany of examples. That
you will not have them. If I gave you 2 months to look for them, you couldn't find them because they've been debunked.
Really?
You have one thing.
The
If you want to talk about,
if you want to talk a minute, Salas's son has been debunked. Dylan Roof has been debunked. Vance Bolter and his
Dylan Roof. What generation was Dylan Roof? What the heck is that? What are you bringing up Dylan Roof? Dylan Roof was that before or after Obama was elected? Dylan Roof.
Listen,
we can talk about that, but
go ahead and talk about it.
Okay, you want to talk about it?
I do.
Okay, there was not a relentless drumbeat for 10 years about his victim like there was here. There was an intent and a motive for her killing by her killer alone. It wasn't Five. It wasn't National Review. It wasn't any show going like, you know what? We need to go after this fascist. Hopefully someone will take her out. That never happened.
Guys,
that is why your analogy is so pointless. and desperate.
Pipe bombs being sent to Democrats' houses. People saying in court, I was inspired by Donald Trump.
If you want to do this math, you're going to be embarrassed.
Brown people. According to you, I'm embarrassed every day. So frankly, I'm just feeling normal. Thank you.
We should do this every week.
Yes.
I honestly, it's first day of the week with Greg seems to go badly for me. So,
well, you don't come in here with both sides.
It's not.
It's not. It's like going into a funeral and saying, "Hey, let's have a kegger."
Well, sometimes you should just celebrate the life.
Dana, is it always like this?
You should see when I get going.
All right. Up next.
So there you go. I told you you're going to enjoy that. Thank you so much, Century Bro. I appreciate pushing us closer and closer toward our goal, which is only 10 today. We have 7 out of 10 when I last checked. Now it's 8 out of 10. Century Bro is here. He's like, Joe, we need answers. We need answers. Joe, I need answers from you. Joe, I need explanations. And speaking of loony lefties, this would the roundup wouldn't be complete without the Queen herself. The roundup would not be complete without the Queen Looney herself. That is, of course, Hillary Clinton.
We haven't gotten to the more perfect union, and we fought a civil war over part of it. Mm-hmm. And people have been protesting, for hundreds of years that, things were not as they should be, given our ideals and how we should be
protesting against Democrats,
moving toward them. So I think that's what makes us so special as a country. And the idea that you could turn the clock back and try to recreate a world that never was, dominated by, let's say it, white men of a certain persuasion, a certain religion, a certain point of view, a certain ideology.
She's such scummy. She's so scummy.
It's just doing such damage.
To
what we should be aiming for.
Okay. I'm not even going to focus. I'm okay. So I think it's wrong to make fun of someone's looks. So I'm not going to focus about the mop that was dropped on her head or the groups of eye makeup that's painting that just seems everywhere there. I'm not going to focus on that. I'm not going to focus on the reinfusions into her Botox cheeks. And that's we're just going to listen to her words.
And we were on the path toward that. I mean,
were we? We were on the path.
Imperfectly, lots of bumps along the way, but I agree with you. We were on the right trajectory.
Yeah, we were. Oh, we were totally on the right trajectory. Everyone in America thought that. Somehow you lost the. When did we go off that? When did we go off that one? Oh, when we maybe went off that one. I'll tell you when we possibly did. When that happened, maybe it was here. Sitting here complaining about being divisive.
You can put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
You are the problem, Hillary. This is where she lost the election.
Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. Put that up. You can put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Basket of deplorables. That's what you called me and you? We're a basket of deplorables. Thank God she said that. Thank God she was stupid enough to say that. So, yeah, that's your friend Hillary right there complaining about the divisiveness. Queen of divisiveness right there. Sicko. Maybe. A long time ago. Decades and decades and decades ago. Decades and decades and decades ago. He probably was high on a whole bunch of stuff when he did that. Century Bro was determined one after another, until old school was screaming, "Go!" So we did hit our goal tonight. That happened. We hit our goal. So good for you guys. I'm going to have to break down for you my behind-the-scenes debate about the whole Erica Kirk thing. Should I do that now, or should I do the? Let me do the other story first, and then I'll save that for the end. I'll save that for the end. We'll do that. We'll do that. We'll save that for the end. I do want to talk about potentially seeing James Comey get indicted. I do think there's a really good chance he's going to get indicted within the next week. And the chances are very, very high. Very, very high that he's going to get indicted. So let's address that. So that in case he gets indicted before I finish my show. Imagine if there's a raid on his house. That would be so cool. You might be excited about the prospect of James Comey being indicted. One group of individuals who is not at all pleased about the scenario here is, in fact, of course, MSNBC.
We are following, as we promised, breaking news. It's out of the Eastern District of Virginia, where three sources familiar tell MSNBC former FBI Director James Comey is expected to be indicted in the coming days. The full extent of the charges being prepared against Comey is unclear. Joining us now, MSNBC Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian and MSNBC Senior Investigative
Look at those
correspondent
serious
Carol
faces.
Leonnig, Chris O'Leary, Ashley Parker, still with us. Carol, help us understand the reporting.
So, Katie, we have some sources who say that for several weeks now, the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Virginia, and actually in offices that are potentially much further south than Alexandria, have been eyeing ways to indict Comey, and they are getting very much closer. The statute of limits, rephrase, they are arguing that Comey, there is evidence to suggest Comey lied to Congress in his testimony on the Hill in September of 2020. And for viewers out in the audience who may not be legally as nerdy as me and Ken, I'll just say that there's a statute of limitations to charge people with the crime of lying to Congress or perjury, and that's 5 years. The 5-year statute runs this month.
So what?
Not this month. It runs next week. The date that he testified was September 30th, 2020, which means the statute of limitations for that particular crime will run on September 30th, 2025, which is next Monday, which means that he would likely be indicted this week.
What exactly is he accused of lying about, Ken?
Well, there was an exchange. There was a seminal hearing back in September of 2020 where congressional Republicans grilled him in the Senate about the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, the FBI Trump-Russia investigation.
That whole crap thing that Barack Obama started.
Remember, there were some issues around FBI
See, they don't really care about this. They don't really care about Comey being indicted. They care about, this is like the start of a whole bunch of indictments.
mistakes, and the Republicans were accused.
And the one name that they're very afraid of is Barack Obama. They're very afraid. And he's one step removed from Barack Obama.
Accusing him of all sorts of misdeeds and of relying on that dossier. But in one exchange with Senator Ted Cruz, he was asked about a
No. Not unless his lawyers basically extend the time, which is unlikely they would do. But, you know, there are some circumstances where they do agree to extend the time. This would be unlikely. Good question.
Previous question that had been put to him back in 2017 by Senator Grassley about whether he had ever authorized the leak of information about the Trump administration or the Clinton administration and Hillary Clinton. And he said that he had not. He repeated his answer back in 2017. The Republicans were suggesting at the time, and we believe at least one theory of this is now, that was a lie. Of course, Comey insists it wasn't a lie. That Comey in fact had authorized somehow a leak of information. And what Ted Cruz cited.
It's not just the leak of information. I'm sure he was asked as to whether or not there was some sort of use of the Steele dossier, which, you know, Brennan under oath several times said no, no, no. And it'd be interesting if you go through the transcript of that. I wonder if I can get a transcript of that. Ooh. That would be really interesting. Should we do a quick check? I'll see if I can find that really fast. We'll see. We'll see if it's going to be about the Steele dossier. Let's see if we can get Comey testify 2020. Mm-hmm.
Turning to Mr. Comey.
Let's see if I can find here. Let me see if I can do a really quick check here. I'll do a really quick check. I copied and pasted the questioning by Ted Cruz of Comey from that thing. Does Comey deny using Steele dossier? So they say he doesn't deny how during exchange Senator Cruz avoids directly confirming the extent to which Steele dossier was ruled upon. Disputes Cruz framing investigation was fundamentally based on it. Interesting. All right, let's hear more from MSNBC.
During the hearing was a leak by then Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe to the Wall Street Journal about an FBI investigation into the Clinton Foundation. Now, what's important to know about that is there was a whole Inspector General report about Andrew McCabe's behavior and his leaks, and he was criticizing that.
My thoughts are stop dating Jessica Tarloff's
report, but that report found that he was authorized on his own as a deputy director to talk to the media, and that he did so without explicit authorization from Comey. So on its face, that doesn't seem to support the idea that Comey lied. Of course, we don't know everything that the grand jury is contemplating. And in fact, I should say, Katie, this is a fluid situation. This could change. We are being told this by 3 sources that an indictment of Comey is expected in the coming days. They're also saying that this same office is expected to charge Tish James, the New York Attorney General, with mortgage fraud. And of course, Donald Trump, we all saw it posted on Truth Social in recent days, exhorting his Attorney General to charge both of those people as soon as possible. But again, you know, this is, grand juries are secret. This is a fluid situation. It's also important to know, though, that
I actually think that probably September 30th would be okay, because when they say 5 years, so that they don't, it's not the number of days. It's not a certain number of days. It's how many years. So if a year has an extra day in it, that would be 5 years. I don't think that would be a problem. It's a good point you're raising, because it's so close to the date. And normally they don't count the date of the offense. So the anniversary, which would be 5 years in one day, would still be considered 5 years. In most things, I don't want to state that definitively. So they wouldn't count the whole day that the offense was committed. They say 5 years after that day. So, because normally when it comes to most things, when they're calculating time, when they're specifically counting days, they will count, the anniversary is whenever you're celebrating your birthday, you're technically, see, on your 30th birthday, you're actually 30 in one day because you've lived on that day. If you're born on February 14th, so February 14th is, you've had 2 February 14ths. So your 30th birthday would be technically, 30 years would be February 13th is when you've now had 30 years of a full set of calendar. So, but we celebrate our birthday on the day of, and similarly, they'll count that as being within 5 years normally. I don't want to state that definitively. I haven't looked about it in this context, but normally they count it starting the next day.
The U.S. attorney, the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in this office, Eric Siebert, was essentially forced out last week, in part because he was refusing to bring these cases. We're told that he was opposed to prosecuting both James and Comey on these grounds, and he's out now. And
Both
the new
James
U.S. attorney is a former Donald Trump defense lawyer who's never prosecuted a case. So that's the state of affairs.
What is her legal expertise or her legal arena?
She's a lawyer. She was a lawyer in the White House for a while. She represented Donald Trump in the Mar-a-Lago investigation.
That is Lindsay Halligan, who's a former Trump attorney.
She's not a prosecutor.
Lindsay Halligan.
Well, I'm sure she's working with a lot of prosecutors.
Again, is her name. Carol, do we know that a grand jury is meeting?
I can't say with absolute certainty that they're meeting today, but we know some of the people that have been contacted for information, Katie. We know some of the people who've been asked questions about these theories that Comey allegedly lied to Congress. As Ken described, there is some flimsiness and some factual challenge to some of the theories that we've heard for the ways to charge Comey with a crime, because all of the available documentary evidence, much of which I've read forward and backward, makes clear that Comey did not authorize the leak that Ted Cruz asked him about, and makes clear that actually he was surprised that this information.
See, they're starting with the presumption that they know what the nature of his lie is, rather than it's a lie about the Steele dossier. They're starting with an assumption that it's a lie as to whether or not he authorized the leak. That's what the assumption that this woman is starting with, and saying, we don't have proof of that. Well, first of all, you don't know what they have. That might corroborate that he did lie about that. And second of all, you don't even know if that's what the lie he's being charged with making, rather than countless other lies. I do think it's logical to assume that their reporting they probably do have a source which is letting them know that it relates to what he testified about on September 30th, which would explain why it is that they think this is coming soon.
Was shared with the news media.
Chris, what are your thoughts?
Look how glum she looks. Oh, they're so sad.
Yeah, so, could they secure an indictment? Yes, the grand jury is a prosecutor's tool. And I mean,
that was the old saying, you can
dine a ham sandwich, for sure.
Well, you believed all the indictments against Trump as like, oh my gosh, this is earth shattering. Can you believe they got an indictment? This is not just a claim. This is an indictment. A jury indicted him.
The problem is making this charge stick. So is this just political theater, indicting Director Comey, arresting him in his home? But did he actually knowingly provide material false information to Congress? Very hard thing to prove, especially.
It's not that hard to prove. No, it's not.
When there's information that has already been established that's exculpatory through an.
You're assuming you know what what the perjury charges relate to. What statements?
OIG investigation.
What would you say about the desire to go after Comey? I mean, we had a couple months ago when he was on a beach, he posted an image of 8647 in Seychelles, and the administration took that to be a
threat,
death threat against the president,
which it's not, and it also
it's not. Of course, it's not. Of course, it's not. This is the party that's continually ratcheting up their own lunatics, but it's not at all that.
Dovetails into the recent discussions about hate speech and the standard for actual threats is very
But they
specific.
followed him, right? But
They
between a
actually-
vacation and home,
and
many
they
hours
brought
on the
him-
road.
Secret Service brought him in. But think about this, the same people from the Secret Service, from the Protective Intelligence Division who stopped the cyber issue yesterday at the UN General Assembly were also distracted to go after things like this, which is not a true threat. The court has established what a true threat is, and Director Comey posting 86 in shells on the beach is not a true threat.
What about
Oh, I agree with that's not a crime. What he posted. What he posted is not a crime.
the Truth Social post where he says, Pam, you got to go after these people? I'm summarizing. Does that give, in talking to Joyce Vance, she said that might give any sort of, any defendant a way out of this by saying this is political retribution.
No.
It's something that you're not allowed to do. You're not allowed to politically target people for prosecution.
That's not politically targeting. He's saying there's a lot of crimes out there that need to be prosecuted. That's not politically targeting.
Certainly, I mean, the optic of it is terrible. I mean, people will perceive this as political retribution, even if it was a legitimate case, which it doesn't appear.
But it can't.
Doesn't appear at all to be. We're assuming he's about to be indicted, but not at all legitimate.
Case get thrown
Even though we were all sitting here giddily when Trump was indicted.
out for under that reasoning.
Of course it could. And if he does get indicted and it moves forward, this case could get dismissed at any step along the way.
Any
long
case could
before
get
it actually goes
dismissed.
to trial.
Yeah, we have to see what the evidence might be presented.
He's making people
in the
dumber by the minute.
Indictment. Let's talk again about what Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, wanting his U.S. attorney and his attorney general to go after perceived political enemies like James Comey, like Adam Schiff, like Letitia James. Ashley, help us understand how much, and I'm sorry to use this again, the teeth behind this. Does he really want these people to be thrown in jail?
Yes, Donald. I mean, not.
Of course they're going to say
let's put it
yes.
broadly, not speaking.
Of course they're going to say yes. They were screaming about this when he was running for office. I would agree with this now. At this point, I think he wants them thrown in jail.
Exactly to Trump's views on Comey in jail per se, but Donald Trump was furious with Comey going back to the campaign, his first campaign in 2015. He fired Comey during his first term in a way that set off a really chaotic spiral for which he blames Comey. This is someone who has long been on his radar. He has long wanted to punish with whatever mechanisms and teeth possible. I think of that 86-47 in Seychelles. As a former waitress, I know 86 to be a food term, right? Like we're out of this.
86 is a food term? What are you talking about?
86 hamburgers. We're no longer serving hamburgers. And so again,
What? What are you talking about?
the idea that
You think he meant 86 hamburgers, Trump? You think that's what he meant? Well, look how vaxxed she looks.
the Secret Service would show up for that comment for a former FBI director shows that Donald Trump is, at the very least, very serious about making Comey's life very miserable. At one point, Comey ended up getting targeted by the IRS for one of these sort of tax audits that the odds of any citizen having to undergo are incredibly, incredibly slim.
Unless you're a conservative during Obama's administration, clown.
So yeah, I think it's that post you just showed is not just Donald Trump saying the quiet part out loud, but in his view, it's not the quiet part. It's just what should be done. And he's very clearly instructing the people around him how he wants this handled, how he wants Comey treated.
He has often said that they go after me because they can't go after you, or they go after me to go after you. And he also says that I will be your retribution. So I guess it stands.
No, he said that retribution is success. That's what he's also said. Are you going to mention that?
Stands the reason that he believes that going after, or could he believe that going after James Comey and the like, Ashley, is Donald Trump getting retribution for harms not committed on him, but on his voters, on his supporters?
Well, he certainly promised revenge and retribution in this campaign. When voters went to the ballot box, that was very clear that that's
He also made it very clear that retribution was success. Are you going to mention that or no? No, Ms. Baxt.
Part of what they were choosing if they chose Donald Trump, and he promised it on his political enemies like James Comey. I think it's hard to make the case, even for President Trump, that Comey somehow wronged his voters. But I will.
Of course, he wronged the voters. But that's not what he's really being charged with. He really wronged the voters with Operation Crossfire Hurricane. That whole part there. Yeah, that's where he wronged the voters, because he basically derailed his first administration.
Say that sense of martyring himself, there is still this broader sense that does appeal to Trump's voters of sort of broader grievance, right? That the deep state is after me, they're after you, you're getting a raw deal with institutions and governments.
Well, considering 77 million people voted for him, considering that he won the first election, and considering everything they did, of course they did. Every time I freeze her, she looks like more ill. And am I the only one who's noticed this? Every time I freeze her, there's just something wrong here.
Which a lot of his voters do feel. And that if they could do this to me, imagine if I wasn't standing in their way, what they could do to you. And that is an incredibly effective, powerful message for Donald Trump's base.
Thursday Night Football.
They understand nothing about Donald Trump or his base. They understand nothing about his base. That's very evident based on the fact that they tried indicting him and thought that would stop his base. So they understand nothing about that. And it's kind of comical. In case you're wondering, the statute that he would be charged with, if in fact he is charged with perjury, as MSNBC is assuming he will be, it is 18 U.S.C. 1621, which is perjury generally, which is whoever having taken an oath before a competent tribunal, including obviously the Senate officer in person, in a case in which the law of the United States authorizes an oath to be administered, that he will testify, declare, depose, or certify truly, or that any written testimony, declaration, deposition, or certificate by him subscribed is true, willfully and contrary to such oath, states or subscribes any material which he does not believe to be true, or in any declaration, certificate, verification, etc., is guilty of perjury, and shall, except as otherwise expressly provided by law, be fined on this title in prison not more than 5 years. So that's what he's facing. So up to the statute of limitations runs for 5 years, and the penalty is up to 5 years. I don't know if for first offense he'll get 5 years, but that is what he is facing, a maximum of 5 years. Question for you guys: is that enough? Is this, assuming that they're correct, that they get him on perjury for one or multiple statements that he made during the course of that deposition, is this enough? If he's indicted with this, will you say, yeah, Pam Bondi is doing her job, or will you say, no, that's not enough? What the hell are you talking about here? That's my question for you. Do you think that this is enough, or because right now, let's face it, there is a lot of anger directed at Pam Bondi. A lot of people are mad at Pam Bondi. When I was trying to put the show together, one of the things I was doing is I go through the news. When I go through the news and I search, and one of the things that you see what's trending, sort of see what people are talking about. And one of the things that was trending was Pam Bondi. And when you look up Pam Bondi in the news, there's a lot of hate directed towards Pam Bondi from the MAGA base. This is what social media is saying about Pam Bondi. National disgrace, not simply incompetence. It's a bought and paid for betrayal for oath of office. What is Pam Bondi waiting for? How much more Democrat domestic terrorism do we have to put up with? How many more people have to die before Pam Bondi, as Attorney General, orders arrests and prosecutions? Antifa leftists murdering Americans daily. Pam Bondi standing there hiding in a corner. I'm calling for this is someone calling on Pam Bondi to step up. Matt Gaetz is needed now. Time is wasting on Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi is Jeff Sessions 2.0. She should be handed she could be handed a confession, still wouldn't indict, arrest, and prosecute. It's flipping ridiculous. Now this is 7.4 thousand likes. Wow, all she does is write strongly worded letters. I'm not going to name names, but initials are Pam Bondi. Oops. So there's a lot of anger. And this is a claim that Desiree made. I actually saw this post where she says that the appointment of Lindsay Halligan is designed to try and give Pam Bondi an opening to go after these people in D.C. It's a short clip here.
The plot just snapped into focus. They quietly removed U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert. Pam Bondi replaced him with Lindsay Halligan, Trump's former attorney. That's the exact district now preparing to indict James Comey. Oh, it runs deep. Bondi's DOJ is moving chess pieces, not checkers. You're watching it unfold in real time. Trump called for it. The pressure on Bondi built for months. And now, right on cue, the first domino tips. Tick, tock. The plot just...
So... When Charlie Kirk was murdered, Pam Bondi threatened to arrest people for hate speech. Since then, both the television station and ICE facility have been shot up by violent leftists. Bondi needs to be fired effective immediately. Breaking, Pam Bondi, a.k.a. Scam Blondie, has been MIA since Inauguration Day. Democrats arrest and prosecute grandmothers for praying, and the popular Republican candidate for president. What does Pam do? All these, notice how many likes these things have. As of today, September 23rd, 2025, Pam Bondi has made a total of 24 appearances on Fox News since becoming an AG on February 5th. 0 deep state indictments. Mike Davis, I don't recognize Union Station anymore. Oh, that's not really attacking her. But I'm saying is there's a lot of hate. She's facing a lot of anger. Malicious buffoon needs to go. Fire Cash, fire Pam Bondi, fire every USSS agent that's on the UN trip. Matt Walsh calling for a firing.
For that, I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights. And employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit looking at that immediately, that Office Depot had done that. We're looking at that. But, and
no one cares about that. Major arrest under Pam Bondi's leadership, 0. Look at how much hate she's getting. So my question for you is this: if there is an indictment within the next 5 days of what's his face, of James Comey, does that buy her some time? Does that buy Pam Bondi's? Most of you, I'm sure, already. If there is an indictment of Comey for perjury, does that buy Bondi any of your grace? We'll phrase it that way. Any of your grace. I'll have yes, no, and I'll also have for a very short time. I think you guys are pretty reflective of a MAGA perspective. And here's the problem. Here's the problem with just going after him for perjury. That's not even really what we really care about. What we care about, most of us care about, is that whole report which came out in January of 2017 with Operation Crossfire Hurricane, which was clearly a scam that was set up by Obama and by Comey and Clapper and Brennan, where they basically were ignoring normal protocols, relying on the Steele dossier to try and create this whole narrative that Russia clearly preferred Trump and was doing everything they could to help Trump beat Hillary, which was thoroughly a lie. If that was their objective, they would have released the damaging information they had on Hillary, which they did not do, about how she's psychotic, bipolar, and on meds. They didn't release any of that. So clearly and they knew that that Russia hadn't released that, and yet they lied to us and created this fiction that Putin preferred Trump and did everything he could to help Trump win. That's what we really want to go after them for. So this whole perjury thing just feels to me as if they're trying to find some way of saying we're going after that scalp without really even going after that scalp. So, I mean, I know how I would vote, but I'm curious what you guys. Some of you might say, look, it's a start. It's something. Something. And I can understand that. So that's why I've got that. That's why I got that poll up there. I want to get your thoughts on that. Get some of your thoughts. Kimmy Hunt says she said aiming for. So that's 12:29. That was a half hour. I don't know how I missed that. After mentioning a certain demographic. Oh, yeah. ICE needs a rebrand. National Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Call it nice. National Immigration. You're against nice. Bondi has the issue of lefties in the DOJ. I do like the acronym NICE that Adam Carolla came up with. This is pretty fun. Me every time Pam Bondi speaks. I agree with you. That whole hate and free speech thing, that was disastrous. There's so little redeeming about her. Oh, so many bad things about Pam Bondi. Okay, so we'll come back to that in a moment. I promised I was going to break down for you my behind-the-scenes debate about Erica Kirk. If you caught Erica Kirk at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, I think one of the key moments, and this is one of the things I was discussing with Ron, one of the key moments was when she said she forgives Tyler Robinson, which was a very powerful moment. And I'm sure a lot of you, most people in the audience seem to be applauding her on that. And I can understand that. And the question I had was, she's obviously a very devout Christian. A very devout Christian. And I was trying to figure out whether under Jewish perspective, that's actually the right approach to take. That she should be forgiving him. I understand in the Christian perspective that that's the right approach because the concept of turning the other cheek. That's a very Christian philosophy, turn the other cheek. And as a Christian, I'm certainly not condemning her at all for being true to her faith. Quite the contrary. I actually think that a return to faith by Christians towards Christianity, I think, is a very healthy thing. I think Jews should be returned to Judaism, and to the extent that people can embrace a healthy form of Islam, that the people should be returning to their faith. I think that society would be a healthier place if that was happening. But that still left open the question of is this something that, is this an area that Christianity diverges with Judaism, the notion of forgiving a killer of a spouse? Is that something that Judaism calls for or not? And that was something that I actually had this conversation with a whole bunch of people. And I've heard a whole different range of takes. Because this is, in Christianity, I think it's pretty black and white. The whole turning the other cheek thing is pretty black and white. So in that sense, because she's a Christian, I certainly can admire her devotion to her faith in taking that very challenging step of forgiving Tyler Robinson. Even saying the words, I mean, no one knows what's in her heart, but she definitely seemed very sincere about it. She seemed very sincere to me, at least. So I'm going to assume that she was sincere. And I think that's a really interesting question from a Jewish perspective as to whether that's something that we should, that if, you know, if she were Jewish, would her rabbi be directing her to forgive her husband's killer? And obviously this is a hypothetical because, like I said, she's a Christian and she's being true to her faith. And I can admire that. I do admire that. But the notion as to whether or not, I was like, is this something that, you know, Judaism would agree with? And the first person I had this conversation with was Lady Logic. And her perspective was, yes, she thinks that Judaism endorses the idea of holding the person accountable, that society should hold that person accountable and punish him appropriately, but that it's something that we are supposed to forgive, and that we're not supposed to harbor that in our hearts. When this topic came up, it actually came up on stream when I was talking with Andrew Branca, and he was saying that if you don't forgive, the only person you end up punishing is yourself, because you end up feeling that burning hatred inside. My question is, the first thing I start with is I don't even know what that means. And the reason I said I don't know what that means is because I don't know if when she says, when Erica says that she's forgiving, is she saying that she doesn't want to see him punished? Does she want God to punish him? Is there something wrong with saying, I forgive you, but I want God to hold you accountable? Is that considered forgiveness? Or are you saying you don't want God to hold him accountable? And that you're hoping that that you'll sort of stand as a defense attorney for Tyler Robinson against God, assuming he was to, you know, meet his maker anytime soon. Not that I'm definitely not encouraging anyone to take that kind of step with him, but you know, if he just, you know, if he doesn't change course at any time between now and the end of his days, and then he meets his maker, is that something that she's like, she would take up the cause for his defense? One of the things that I definitely came to is I don't see how she has jurisdiction or license or ability to actually forgive him for the wrong he committed to other people by killing Charlie. For example, her children. I don't even know if her children themselves could forgive him. And the reason I ask that question is because they have no way of knowing the loss that they've sustained. They don't know the impact that how different their lives would be if Charlie was not murdered. So even if they grew up and 15 years from now, they have no idea the impact as far as the loss that they've suffered. So how can they possibly forgive when they don't even know what they're forgiving? It's almost like you don't even know what you lost. So you're just sort of guessing at like what the difference would be in your life, but there's no way you actually know. No one could possibly know that. So I don't see how she would have jurisdiction to forgive for that. Then you have to take into account all the other people in Charlie's life who suffer as a result of him being gone. People he could have had a positive influence on. People who may not have even heard of Charlie. Friends of his who now don't have him as a shoulder to lean on or to seek guidance from. So now they're somewhat more lost because of that. So I guess she can, in theory, and I even question how a person can forgive when she doesn't even know the impact that it's going to have on her. Like, there's no way she can know the impact it's having on her. Even when, you know, many years from now, when she meets her maker, is she going to know the difference in her life? What would have been if Charlie was there versus if it wasn't? She can speculate, I guess. But that's why I don't really, I struggle to understand what it means. I struggle to understand how a person could give forgiveness when they don't really know the difference between, you know, it's very simple when you're talking about someone steals money from you. So you say, I forgive that. So it's very easy to say, okay, I would have had $100,000. They stole $30,000. Now I have $70,000. So there you can, it's a very easily quantifiable type of thing, as opposed to the impact someone is having on your life, which is impossible to quantify. So in that sense, I struggle to try to even understand what it means when Erica says about herself that she's forgiving. But let's assume that she has that capacity. But then the question I have is, you know, so now she's forgiving. She forgave him at 5 p.m. on Sunday. A week from now, she's feeling like a certain loneliness, which we assume that many times she's going to feel that. So when she feels that pain at that time, does she not have that? Does she not feel lonely? I assume she would. So now when she's experiencing that pain, unfortunately, which is terrible, like does she need to issue forgiveness a second time? Does she need to continually issue new forgiveness for the pain she's suffering at that point in time? So I have all these different questions as to what forgiveness means. And again, I still don't know whether forgiveness means that I'm not going to hold you accountable, but I want God to hold you accountable. Is that forgiveness? Or I'm not going to hold you accountable, but I want society to hold you accountable. Is that forgiveness? And then also her ability to forgive. And then we didn't even bring up the real thing here, which is I don't see how any person could forgive a killer when that person's soul, the one person that you can ask the question to is Charlie himself. And the loss that, you know, Charlie, like, you know, lost a certain period of time in his life. So, you know, arguably his soul is, you know, should be in heaven demanding justice for the fact that he was robbed of X number of years from his natural life. And I certainly don't understand how a spouse has the capacity to extend grace or forgiveness for that. Because even if she's, you know, his wife, and, you know, that for her to be able to make that decision on his soul's behalf, I don't understand that. I struggle with that. I don't understand that. Anyway. And I think that what Kimmy is saying here is probably a perspective that a lot of people would take. The idea is not to carry the hate in your heart. And that makes sense to me. That does make sense to me. Say, I'm not going to carry this hate in my heart. I'm going to wash that away. There's all the other pain that they feel. But maybe forgiveness is not actually like I'm forgiving you of the pain. But I'm not going to carry and harbor this hate in my heart. For me, that's a much easier thing to wrap my head around. And perhaps when she's saying I forgive, because that, to me, that's not the same thing as forgiveness, though. I think people interpret it that way, but that's not the same thing as forgiving. Because forgiveness, you know, is sort of like implies forgive and forget, and like saying I don't want someone held accountable. And all the questions I was throwing out before this super chat really relate to that element of it. To the extent that forgiveness is just, I'm not going to carry hate in my heart. Yeah, that I can understand. And that anyone could do. And I think that probably is a healthy thing. to not carry that hate in your heart. And that's why I was saying I'm not sure what the word forgiveness really means, because it has a lot of different connotations. But I actually spoke to a number of different people who I like and respect, who are Jewish and understand a lot about Jewish perspective, and asked them whether they thought that forgiveness is something that should be done. And if anything, I would think that, okay, if someone, let's say someone's continually assaulting you all the time, so you're supposed to continually forgive them every time. They come every morning, you wake up, coworker punches you in the face. Come back the next day, punches you in the face. You're supposed to forgive him every day, even when he's continuing to do that assault, even if there's no effort on that person's behalf to change or modify their behavior. So at a certain point, I don't think that's healthy. Personally, I don't think that leads to a productive society. So if someone expresses no remorse, someone expresses no intent to change their behavior, someone expresses no objective whatsoever of modifying who they are, I do not think that my personal take, and I think a Jewish perspective, is that I don't think that that's something you're supposed to be forgiving and saying, oh, it's all fine. That's all fine. That's all good. I don't think that that's a healthy thing. It's my personal perspective. And I do think that's a divergence. I could be mistaken. It could depend on which Christian you're talking to. But I do think that's, in certain ways, certain perspectives of Christianity would probably differ on that end, as far as whether that's something that you should forgive and just say, you know what, that's what God wants, and I'm going to eat it. There was another couple of chats that came up here. Tyler Robinson's new attorney, Catherine Nestor, was chosen to represent Robinson under a contract with Utah County Commission, which appoints lawyers for defense who cannot afford private counsel. Oh, okay. Kimmy says, yes, it's forgiveness. We are taught to forgive 70 times, 7, Matthew 18, 21, 22. Also, the government does not wield the sword of justice in vain. Right. And what I'm saying is, forgive and love your enemy. Now, I was actually looking into like different Jewish ethical perspectives on this particular topic. Like, there's actually a notion that you should, if you see two people who are struggling, you should help your enemy before you help your friend. You know, because in order to sort of fight that nature in yourself to feeding into your own hate. But yeah, so I've really been grappling with this and trying to, I spent the last like 3 days just trying to like come to some sort of perspective on this, as to like what I think Jewish perspective is on this. And some people were like, no, that's the turning the other cheek thing is uniquely Christian, separate from all other faiths. And turning the other cheek even while someone is wronging you is uniquely Christian. So my take is, I don't think you're supposed to harbor hate. I think that harboring hate is self-destructive. I'm still not sure I'm correct on this. But I'm telling you what my current perspective is on this is that from a Jewish perspective, you shouldn't be harboring hate because that's self-destructive. But that's different from forgiveness. And be like, no, look, you're wrong. What you're doing is wrong. I don't have to feel an emotional way about it, but what you're doing is totally wrong. I think especially if they're continually doing the same thing over and over again. Or in Tyler Robinson's situation, where there's been no expression of remorse or regret. So I don't think Judaism would say that that's a situation that demands forgiveness. But even if it doesn't demand forgiveness, there are scenarios sometimes where something may not demand forgiveness, but you can still offer it anyway. It's like sort of like you have the opportunity you can choose to do that. Anyway, I don't have all the answers on this one right now. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of it because I'm very curious about that particular. When she said it, I was like, I don't even know what that means. Does that mean that like she doesn't want to see him punished? Does she don't want to see the state punish him? Would she go in there and saying, don't give him the death penalty, don't punish him, don't put him in prison? Or is she saying, that she's just letting go of her own hate? And again, letting go of her own hate, to me, that's not, I understand why people would call that forgiveness. For me, that's an easier thing for me to get my head around. I've seen like sometimes where you see religious Christians who they'll see someone who's a mass murderer or something like that, and they might even have family members who are victims, and they'll prevail upon the state not to issue the death penalty. I think that happened with that Oklahoma City bomber. I think there were a couple of families like that, and I think that to me, I struggle with that. It's one thing to say you're not going to hold on to the hate yourself, but to say that society shouldn't mete out justice to someone who acts with monstrosity. I don't see how that makes society a healthier place. All you're doing is inviting further evil. And I think that is an area where I think Judaism diverges from Christianity, where there's more of a direct objective of expunging that which is evil, rather than merely turning the cheek. I think that's one of the distinctions. So, JH says, for a lot of Christians, forgiveness thing takes the revenge issue out of the mix. We won't go after your family, friends, or generations. Yeah. I have a serious message from a librarian in my DM. Do I? What? A librarian? I'm not done with this yet. If you have thoughts on this.
Greta Thunberg's alliance with Free Palestine.
But someone asked me to check my DMs, and I know Allegan News shared this with me earlier.
Hey guys, this looks like
about Greta Thunberg. We'll come back to this in a moment.
Thunberg's alliance with Free Palestinian activists is under pressure over the presence of a gay man on their flotilla. Thunberg is taking part in the Global Samud Flotilla, which is a group of vessels aiming to bring aid to Gaza. Last week, a local board member stepped down when he learned that one of the sailing activists, Saif Ayadi, identified as queer. Tunisian Khaled Boujamai posted that Ayadi's presence was a distraction and shameful in 2 Facebook Live videos. He said Tunisians did not donate so that a queer activist could join and boast of it. Other figures also condemned Ayadi's presence, saying it's an attempt to impose a culturally progressive agenda unrelated to the Palestinian cause, and that Ayadi crossed a red line when he announced that he was queer in a public post. Greta has since accused the flotilla for focusing too much on internal issues and announced she will no longer be on the executive committee, but will stay on as an organizer and participant. For anyone with even an ounce of understanding of the region, this collision between Western progressivism and a far more conservative Muslim population was inevitable. Do you think this will be enough to wake Greta up to the fact that many of her allies in this cause are not pro-LGBTQ+ like her?
No, of course not. She doesn't care about that. All she cares about is her money and her fame, popularity. That's all she cares about. Wake her up. There's no waking her up. She's a grifter. She's a professional grifter. She's great at grifting. No waking her up. It's a matter of how do I make the most money out of whatever I'm doing right now. That's all she cares about, ultimately. Kimmy shared this with me. What do you got here for me, Kimmy? So check 16 minutes to 16 to 17 minutes. So we're going to try to check this out. I don't know what this is we're looking at, but we'll try to check this out. Just 1 minute of this.
Charlie's probably the only person I've ever argued with offline that I would feel guilty by the fact that I argued with him. I mean, because he was that nice of a guy, that gentle of a guy, that generous of a guy. You could say the worst things about him, and he'd come back with something that just made you feel really bad. It was like, I was an asshole today. Positive. He is the best of evangelicalism.
Yes,
I mean,
he really was.
Yeah, so I was on Sky News and I said he was the best of America. And I got somebody wrote back to me, well, I like Charlie Kirk, but I don't know how he's the best of America. I was like, well, think about what America should be. It should be entrepreneurial. It should be creative. It should be religious. It should be family. It should be community. It should be tradition. It should be labor, the value of labor for its own sake. Charlie was exemplified all this. This guy built an organization from scratch out of his garage as a teenager. You don't get more American than that, and the best of American than that. You know, he marries Miss Arizona. You know, the third kid on the way. I mean, happy, healthy family life. Lived his beliefs. He didn't.
I said 2 and a third kid away. A lot of people are speculating that she's pregnant. I don't know if she's pregnant or not. I have no idea. A lot of people have speculated that she's pregnant. I saw someone else who posted that. I don't know that it's true, which is why I haven't reported on it. I saw a very shady source claim that she was pregnant. But they were so shady that I didn't even mention it. But you asked me to review that, so that's why I think that perhaps he saw the same source. Maybe he has better sources. I saw a very shady source make that claim that she was pregnant with the third child. So, yeah, I don't take that as being. I don't know what his source is for that. You say I'm supposed to check out. What a librarian sent to me. I don't see a librarian. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Lynn, I agree with you. It's not easy to forgive enemies. It's very, very difficult to forgive enemies. I agree with you with that 100%. Some DM video, the Roberts let some inside info slip. 1 minute video, 16, 17 minutes, specifically 16:54. Yeah, so that's why I just checked that out for you. Barnes is a Jew-hating tard. F him. I don't think he is. I've never seen any indication of that at all. He knows I'm an Orthodox Jew, and you know, I haven't seen that at all. So I'm usually have pretty good vibe on stuff like that. I haven't seen anything like that at all from him. I expect him to be a Christian. He is Christian. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people are Christian. That doesn't mean they hate Jews. In fact, I think a very small percentage of people who are Christian hate Jews. There are some, but I've never seen that from Robert Barnes. So, yeah. So my final takeaway here is I do think that the willingness with which she forgave him is definitely uniquely Christian. The rapidity with which she forgave him was Christian. But again, I still question what forgiveness really ultimately means. And there is a concept in Jewish law of working very hard towards, the word we use is vatronis, which means giving in. It means, not holding a grudge. Being mevater is the word. Vatronas, that VTR sound that you're hearing there in the middle of that word is the root of the word, or being mevater. This is like giving in, so that it's considered a positive quality to try not holding people accountable, to try giving people grace, to, giving up of yourself to others. That's what Vatronas is. And that's a very positive quality. But then there is the notion of accountability is like a big thing that we have also. And that's why I think that when I asked this question to some people who I have a great deal of respect for, I got such a broad spectrum, a really broad spectrum. One of whom I have a great deal of respect for is my wife, Theologic. She was most adamant that it's a necessary thing to issue that forgiveness. So anyway, that was my behind the scenes thing. And if I get any more on this, I'll try to keep you guys updated as to what my research says about this, because I'm still very torn. I don't see that I don't see the serious message from a librarian in my DM. I don't see that at all. So I'm not sure what you're referring to here. But yeah, anyway, that's what I got for you. So I'm gonna land my plane here. I thank you all for joining me. God willing, I expect to be back tomorrow evening. So you definitely are gonna want to be. I'm gonna see you then. That's when I'm gonna see you, is tomorrow evening, probably around 10 o'clock or so. That's the objective. I don't know if I'm gonna be joined by someone tomorrow night or not. There's two potential possibilities. I am sending you over to Jim. Maybe Patrick. Normally I have Patrick on Wednesdays. He was saying he's not available tonight. Maybe available tomorrow. Normally Thursday is when I would have Jim on. I don't know, but I'm sending you over to Jim now. Let me know what you think, if you have a preference. He claims there's a genocide occurring in Gaza. I haven't heard him say that. And if so, that's a pretty bad take. Forgiveness means that even if Robinson becomes a Christian before he's put to death, she knows that God judges. Oh, so forgiveness still allows God to pass judgment? So I thought forgiveness is designed to clear the path for God to forgive as well. That's how look, next week is, I mentioned, is Yom Kippur, right? Day of Atonement. We actually believe that there are sins against God and sins against man. And that God will not, if someone has sinned against man, he needs to obtain forgiveness from that other person who he wronged in order to clear a path for God to forgive him. So in that sense, I would think that looking at the Tyler Robinson situation, he would need to obtain forgiveness from everyone who he wronged. The kids, his family, his friends, countless people whose lives Charlie Kirk touched. So, Erica Kirk would be one person. But, yeah. Anyway, I thank you all for joining me. God willing, I will see you all tomorrow evening. Make sure you're here. You'll find me at goodlawgic.locals.com. If you're not a subscriber, I appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the whole forgiveness thing. I'd love to read your takes. I do try to check them out. You know what they say, lab meat is definitely not meant for you. It's for they, them. Stay away from the lab meat. Not meant for you. It's meant for they, them. And do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't eat the bugs. Have a good night, everyone. And as always, Godspeed.